Today on the LA Food Podcast, you probably know Ben Leventhal as the guy who gave us Eater and Resy, two inventions that basically rewired how we eat, think, and rage scroll for reservations. But what if I told you that his new venture, Blackbird, might actually outdo both of them? Blackbird is a loyalty and payment app that rewards you for honestly just being yourself. You show up, you eat, you pay the bill, and boom, perks. It's like discovering airline miles, but for being a restaurant person. But here's the twist. After talking to Ben, you realize Blackbird isn't just a cool toy for diners, it might actually change how restaurants make money, survive, and think about the future. So I sat down with Ben at Rustic Canyon in Santa Monica to talk through the app's LA rollout, how you can hack the app for maximum benefit, and how this whole thing could reshape the industry. We also get into his days in food media, and as a loud and proud New Yorker, what he really thinks of LA being a tier 1 dining city now. But first, believe it or not, we actually have Check's Notes good news in food media this week. After months of nothing but chaos and layoffs, suddenly there are bright spots. The New York Times has new associate critics. There are rumors of a brand new food media startup, and Father Saul is here to help me figure out whether this is a real shift or just the universe teasing us again. Plus, in Chef's Kiss Big Miss, we've got Robot Walks, Alinea losing a star, The Infatuation's best new restaurants of 2025, and much, much more. A reminder that the LA Food Podcast is part of the Acquired Taste Media family. Be sure to listen to our sister podcast, Taqueando with Bill Esparza. This week, we published an episode of Bill speaking live with chefs at San Diego Food and Wine. Some truly interesting conversations on the relationship between Baja California and California cuisine. If you would be so kind to leave both our show and Bill's show a 5-star review wherever you listen to podcasts, that would really mean the world to us. As always, I'm your host, Lucas Servodio, and without further ado, it's time to chow down. The LA Food Podcast is presented by The Lonely Oyster. Unwind at The Lonely Oyster's Echo Park Night Watch. Did you know that every night is industry night at The Lonely Oyster, dear listener? Stroll in after 10 p.m. nightly for a one-of-a-kind experience designed for the night owls and hospitality pros. Indulge in $12 handshake cocktails, expertly crafted liquid chef concoctions, delicious late-night hot bites, and chef's choice dozen oysters. More than just a place to unwind, The Lonely Oyster warmly welcomes industry professionals, providing a space where like-minded individuals can connect, relax, and enjoy the camaraderie that comes with the late-night scene. Whether you're looking to kick back after a long shift or simply enjoy the vibrant atmosphere, late night at The Lonely Oyster is the perfect rendezvous for those who appreciate good company and great food and drinks. Don't miss this nightly affair and let the good times roll at The Lonely Oyster. Welcoming back to the LA Food Podcast, a man who's really started to embrace his social media persona. Father Saul, could you tell our listeners how you went about selecting your brand new profile pic on Instagram?
Well, first of all, I was thinking of the apple pan controversy, right? My near cancellation, and I chose the GIF of Hannibal Buress. First of all, I feel like a connection to Hannibal Buress. Like Hannibal Buress from the Eric Andre show, the sidekick in the background, just kind of yelling stuff every so often. I think he kind of like fits the mold. So I have a like a image of him saying, "Why are you yelling at me? I'm right," which is also just the way I feel about this podcast and my presence on it.
Be honest, would you have taken the money from Saudi Arabia?
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, my fucking family lived there. I mean, I don't. I'm allowed. Grown Muslim, man. I'm who the money is for.
Yeah, you're like I earned this. I did it for free. I might as well get paid for it.
Right.
Yeah. Well, hey, I applaud you for leaning a little bit more into your Instagram persona. In case you want to follow him, dear listener, it's LAFP_Saul, one of the most old man handles I've ever heard. But hey, we'll allow it. At least it's progress.
You can look forward to no posts. You can look forward to no activity from me.
But he does enjoy the odd troll comment, so you at least know who it's coming from now. Mm-hmm. Hey, let's dive right into it because we have a conversation today, and I'm not kidding. This may be one of the favorite conversations we've ever had on this podcast. I know that I say that with some degree of regularity, but this time I actually mean it.
We haven't had the conversation yet. How can you say that?
Not you and I. I'm talking about the interview that's coming up after this.
Got it. Sorry, I was confused for a second. I was like, don't set the bar so high, man. You're over-promising.
Baby, every conversation you and I have is my favorite. But no, the interview I'm talking about is an interview with Resy and Eater founder Ben Leventhal, who just rolled out Blackbird, his new app, to Los Angeles. Have you heard of Blackbird, buddy?
Didn't we talk about Blackbird? I think we talked, like, there's an Eater article about it back in the day, I think.
Yeah, which would make sense, which would stand to reason. But yeah, in case you want to learn more about Blackbird, stick around for part 2 of this podcast. Listen to that interview, and it really ties into some of the themes Saul and I are going to discuss on today's, part 1. So very cohesive episode all around, I gotta say. Let's start as we always start, and that is with recent eats. Saul, what have you been eating lately?
I was trying to think. So I was in Seattle last week, so nothing too interesting there.
Big mistake.
But before I left, I went to Le Coupe, the fried chicken joint.
Okay.
Really fucking good, man. I'm not a huge fried chicken. I've not been to Daybird yet, right? Like a fried chicken sandwich isn't my thing, so I got the tenders. Really good. They have like a honey chili sauce. They put on all the tenders. Delicious. Decent mac and cheese. Very good potato salad. But dude, best chocolate chip cookies in town, I think.
What?
Really? I mean, they are we had an excellent chocolate chip cookie at Quarter Sheets that we talked about. And I said at the time too, this is a perfect chocolate chip cookie. I also have a personal taste for the kind of chunkier ones that are more, and dude, the cookies at Le Coupe, they come out warm, crispy on the outside, fucking melty gooey on the inside. They are crack. They're so good.
Yeah.
So
wow,
really good spot. Happy for Le Coupe.
That is high praise, because I consider you to be like 2 chocolate chip cookies as I am to pizza, aka someone who has put in the work and knows what they're looking for. So now I got to try the chocolate chip cookie from Le Coupe. How would you describe the fried chicken? What are your credentials for being an arbiter of good or bad fried chicken?
I mean, they're low. Like I said, I'm not a big fried. I like a fried chicken, but it's not my go-to usually. I don't know. I was in a mood. I was curious. I like wings. I'm a wings guy, right? And I'll go for a tender here and there.
Just making sure you're still talking about chicken, right?
What? All right. I will say fried chicken is you know it when you see it. You buy it in and you're like, oh yeah, here we go.
Yeah.
The crunch is there, but the moistness of the chicken is there. The sauce and flavoring and seasonings all on point. This and everything. I was expecting my least favorite thing with fried chicken. And the reason why I normally like plain tenders is when a sauce makes the wing soggy, right? And removes the crispiness. These guys, no worry. That crunch is there to stay. Have you had Le Coupe? I feel like you have.
I haven't, but I almost got canceled over it. Do you know this?
I did not know that.
Well, what if I told you, would it change your opinion on them if I told you that their owner is allegedly MAGA?
Come on. Look. I'm about the art, not the artist. I've always had.
Yeah.
Look.
Yeah.
I'll say it.
Don't say it. Don't say it. Oh my God.
I'll listen to my beautiful dark twisted fantasy. It has a place. It's legendary. Fucking College Dropout. That's the shit. You can forget. Take a moment, have 2 drinks and forget, and just play some old great hip hop. And forget who it's by.
The place for that is alone in the solitude of your car, and that's it.
To be clear, that's exactly where it happens. I should not be saying it on mic right now, but we all do it. Let's all be honest, people. Why are you yelling at me? I'm right. We all do it.
Yeah,
we all do it. And that's. I mean, look, it's a bummer. I don't love that. I don't love that. I'll be honest. I'm the Le Coupe owner, but hey, congrats on fried chicken. Now I'm so pissed that I can't go back for more chocolate chip cookies. But give me one more.
You can go, just don't publicize it.
Oh yeah, don't publicize. Yeah, I'll wear the brim, the sunglasses. I'll dress nice so no one will expect it's me.
Yeah. Just wear anything other than a black polo, and then nobody will have a clue.
Black polo and Hokas. If I'm not wearing those, it could be anybody.
It's literally like when Clark Kent takes off the glasses or puts on the glasses. That's your effect with the black polo.
I have to dress up as Superman, and everyone's like, who's this guy?
That's the requirement for you to go get a cookie from Le Coupe in the future. You've got to be wearing a red cape. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I've eaten significantly more than you have over the last week. I did some of my best eating near San Diego, actually. I was there for San Diego Food and Wine because Bill was recording a live podcast there, basically interviewing chefs down at San Diego Food and Wine. It was awesome. He interviewed 4 different chefs, really about like the connection between Baja California and California, especially like today in like today's America, right? Very interesting conversations. Gotta say, not a fan of food festival food, and I've said that many times on this podcast, but San Diego Food and Wine really nailed it for a couple of reasons. I think I've realized what makes good food festival food. Number one, you gotta be bringing in places that you can't get on an everyday basis. Like, for example, that's what The Infatuation does really well with EatsCon. Like, they're bringing in places from New York, from Nashville, from Houston, right? So there's like a raison d'etre. You're not just going to like try like the well-loved Los Angeles classics. You're trying something new. And San Diego Food and Wine brought in so many different chefs from all over Mexico, especially Baja California. But like, we're talking Tecate, Valle de Guadalupe, Ensenada, Tijuana, right? And just getting to try these restaurants that I've heard so much about, but that I've never visited in person was a treat. Secondly, I hate it when restaurants come and they bring like little canopies, right? You gotta bring like a dish. Like, bring a dish. And it's really easy to do that with Mexican food because you can offer like a flauta or a taco or a tostada or something, right? Which doesn't like completely fill you up, but it adds to like a good comprehensive food festival experience. My favorite bite was from a restaurant in Tijuana. We have to go to Tijuana, by the way. It's this restaurant called Casa Tijuana. What they did was they did this flauta with an entire head-on and tail-on shrimp inside. So the head of the shrimp and the tail of the shrimp were peeking out either end of the fried flauta, and on top it had a little like shredded machaca and these beans which were laced with suadero fat. Dude, it was insane. It was one of the best bites I've had all year. So San Diego Food and Wine, amazing event, really enjoyed it. Went to a brunch spot in a little town called Encinitas, which is a beautiful, like, you know, seaside sort of very beachy town. It feels like you're in that show, The Summer I Turned Pretty, which I'm sure you binged on Amazon Prime.
I have seen 5 episodes of that. Not bad.
Not bad, right? Not bad, yeah.
Not bad.
Which brother do you support?
So I'm only 5 episodes in. The younger brother looks like an alien. He looks like he looks like a bug.
He does
a little bit. A very handsome bug. But like, I don't really know what to make of him right now. He seems to be the more chill and cool one right now. The older one's being like moody and uncool because he knows his mom's dying. I think like that whole deal.
It's forgivable.
Yeah. I like the Asian brother. I like the main character's brother. I can't remember his name. He's chill. I like him.
He's funny. Unfortunately, Belly can't end up with him.
Right. But I don't. Is that what I needed? Oh, in terms of the teams, right? In terms of choosing teams, I understand that he's not in the running there. Yeah.
Unless you really want to throw in your flag for team incest. Anyways, the restaurant I went to was Atelier Mana, and it was on Bill Addison's list of the 101 best restaurants in California. It is only open for lunch and brunch. So I was kind of just thinking like this is going to be, you know, kind of just a regular brunch spot. It was kind of like the Baby Bistro of brunch food because it was like a super tight menu, bangers only, at least bangers in their mind, right? And very interesting dishes. Like they had like a duck confit laced with like 5 spice and these beautiful like beans on the bottom. There was this really good tuna tartare that was sort of like Middle Eastern influenced, served with just really good bread, which I've never had. The tuna tartare served with bread as opposed to like crackers or like tortilla chips or chips, frankly. So just really interesting food. They had this awesome pistachio bread pudding, which it was unlike any bread pudding I've ever had because they actually took bread and made it feel like pudding. You know what I mean? Like typically when you get bread pudding, it feels like wet bread. This actually like scooped like a pudding because of the way it had been soaked and stuff. So very, very impressive. Very, very impressed with Atelier Mana. Would definitely recommend it. And then last night, I went to dinner in Altadena with new friend of the pod, Glenn Gritzner, at Betsy, which is one of the like hot new restaurants in Los Angeles, owned by the All Time people. It was kind of a surreal experience, dude. It was my first time going to Altadena since the fires. It's basically on this block where it's just this building and everything around it has pretty much burned down. And so you're kind of there and you feel like you're in this like weird like war zone almost, like it's very dead, but there's this like very alive block of restaurants and shops, basically like really anchored by Betsy. And the other thing that struck me is it's a restaurant that's centered around like an open flame, and there's kind of a beautiful poetry to that like this like open flame fire cooking is like bringing back life to the neighborhood that was like destroyed by the same element, you know? Okay. There's a poetry to that.
Okay. I got really nervous. I think you may have just about landed that, and that's all I'll say.
I can see why you got nervous. Yeah, knowing me.
It's a little. I'm like, how thoughtless is this going to be? Okay, I guess so. That seems to minimize the real tragedy and overall destruction of people's livelihoods and things. But I see where you went with that.
It was kind of like out of the concrete a flower doth bloom, that kind of thing, right? And the food itself was pretty simple, I would say. It's clearly just trying to be like a really good neighborhood restaurant, kind of like All Time is. And as far as that assignment goes, I think it nailed it. We got this awesome New York strip with this great butter on it, like seasoned butter on it. All their vegetable dishes are incredible. They had these like super charred carrots, which we both mistook for potatoes because they were that like, you know, like girthy and like, you know, satisfying as far as like a side dish goes. Great charred cabbage. And I gotta say, our server Ben was a legend. You know when you get a server who can just match the energy of the table?
Yeah. My energy is normally not demanding and pretty quiet, but I do know your energy, so I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, like kind of bantery and like wanting to like engage, you know. And sometimes, you know, I can be a lot for sure, but Ben really brought it, and he was down to clown, like also like really down to give like great recommendations in terms of wine. I think we tried all in all like 6 different wines basically between Glenn and I, and it was all guided by Ben's like very enthusiastic guidance. Also, another one of the people that work at All Time is this girl Olivia, who I actually used to work with at the Pie Hole. So seeing her there was like this like holy shit moment. So that was really cool too. So all in all, Betsy, highly recommend, not just to go and support Altadina's like resurgence, but just like really good wine, you know, simple but really like soulful, like good fresh cooking.
I was adding Betsy to my list of places I want to go as you were describing it. That sounds sick. I also do think open fire cooking, Betsy, Dunsmore, there are others that I'm not remembering. I'm thinking that's like that does seem to be another thing. Yeah.
Maidan Market, where we'll be going soon,
right,
actually.
That was the other one. Exactly.
They're very much centered around open fire cooking too. So yeah, definitely onto something there. Anyways, speaking of trends and speaking of things and, you know, patterns that we're seeing, today's
hell of a segue. Speaking of things, by the way, I have yet another. Speaking of things we might speak of.
It's been a long day. Look, the big deal of the day we want to discuss today has to do with food media, because we have spoken a lot about food media on this podcast in the past months, if not years. And more often than not, when we're talking about food media, it's about bad news. We're talking about layoffs, consolidations, sometimes the outright extinction of venerated outlets. This week felt like an indication that the tide might finally be turning. I'm gonna quickly list some of the things that happened this week. Number 1, the New York Times unveiled its 2 new associate food critics, including friend of the pod Ryan Sutton, formerly of Eater New York and now of the Low Times.
Yeah.
As a reminder, when Ligaya Michon and Tejal Rao were named chief critics in June, the paper said it was also going to be naming associate food critics who would help Ligaya and Tejal in publishing reviews on a more frequent basis. So this is basically the next step to making that a reality. Number 2, the Washington Post named Elazar Sontag, formerly of Bon Appetit, as its new critic, and interestingly, Sontag has also foregone anonymity like Michon and Rao did upon joining the Times. Number 3, Emily Sundberg's Substack, Feed Me, launched its first podcast, and it happens to be a food podcast called Expense Account. It's hosted by Jay Lee, who I know you like a lot, and you might know, dear listener, on social media as @Carrie_Bradshaw_. And also from the Feed Me corner of the universe, the newsletter broke news that a couple of Puck alums are peeling off to start a food media startup. And this scoop was light on the details, but the two former Puckers did say they wanted to make something that serves insiders as well as consumers. And that's about all we got. So, listening to all of that, am I right to feel optimistic about the future of food media given all these announcements, or should I hold on to my proverbial horses just a little bit?
No, I think this is really exciting. I think this is also predictable is maybe the wrong word, but with Eater in particular and media more generally getting hollowed out and all this talent moving to Substack or elsewhere, I think it was sort of, and we talked about this, like it was sort of inevitable that that this would get reconfigured. There is, I believe, a market for food media.
Yeah.
The issue isn't that they can't be done; it's that the outlets that were either that had the mantles, the Eaters in particular, I would say, didn't really know how to apparently do it in a way that appease the business bottom lines that the owners of Vox were looking for. And so this is just a matter of like talent emerging and also reorganizing into ways that will hopefully serve people in, I think, new and interesting ways and fill the gap left by the market space, right? It's basically, to me, it's a correction, right? Like, it's not true that we don't want no food stories and no food media. I think like interest in food has been like steadily growing over time. It's probably at an all-time high. And the people who are able to engage with it as critics and also as like cultural commentators essentially are I think going to be in high demand. The question is just like, what's the right platform and outlet and packaging for them? So this is super exciting.
That's a big question that I definitely want to like dive into a little bit more, but just recapping looking back at the developments that I listed, which ones do you find most exciting?
So the Puck thing we have the least amount of details on, but I listened to and read the Puck separately, so I'm kind of curious about that. I'm a huge fan of Jay Lee. Jay Lee's episode on Compliments to the Chef talking about Ratatouille was like, oh, this guy's just like immediately an all-world podcaster, and I would like listen to him talk.
Whoa.
Yeah. I feel strongly about that, and I was like, that is very exciting. And I thought Sontag's introduction piece in the Washington Post was really excellent. I'm excited to read him as well.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, like I'm just listening to all of them now, but like even Ryan Sutton, Robert Sietzema is still out there, by the way, I believe on Substack. There's like talent out there. Robert Martinez, who's I think my favorite food influencer in the world, is out there on Substack doing his thing. Yeah, no, I'm not.
Jesus Christ, I'm just catching strays left and right on this podcast.
Look, you deserve them. I'm sorry. Like it's okay that they're great. They're great, talented people out there, and a lot of this, like reading Ryan Sutton in the New York Times is gonna be really cool. I think Feed Me and Jay Lee and Jay Lee's podcast and how they grow that out is, I think, going to be what's particularly exciting to me, effectively, and build an audience. Continue to build an audience.
Did you listen to the first episode?
I have not yet. I will.
With Alison Roman?
No, I will, though. It's on I've followed it, and I have it on, like, I'm traveling more soon, and we'll get those listens in.
I listened to it. I got to say, it was a pretty good hang. I got, like, Alison Roman, great guest. And actually, I'm pleased to announce she'll be coming on this podcast in the coming weeks.
Oh.
Hell yeah.
Oh.
But she is just a great hang. Like, she's a really good conversationalist. So I think Jay Lee definitely has the chops as well. I'll be interested to see what it's like when he has a guest that gives him a little bit less, But I think that the theory of the case is interesting. He wants to talk to food people about not food and not food people about food. So,
oh, that's interesting.
This was technically a food person. They did talk a lot about food, to be fair, but I kind of see what he was trying to do. I'm interested to see what happens when he talks to a not food person about food, just to see how it all progresses. So, interesting concept. Please, dear listener, go listen to Expense Account, but not at the expense of this podcast, of course. You can listen to more than one food podcast in a week.
Not at the expense of our account.
Woo! And that actually lost us more listeners. I mean, look, you bring up something really interesting, right? Which is, it's exciting. These are great developments, but there is a need, I think, for these publications, and whether they're the legacy publications or the new publications, to offer something new. Like, I feel like one thing that I heard while I was studying for the conversation with Ben Leventhal is he says something along the lines of, when he's looking for his next big idea, whether it's Resy, whether it's Blackbird, he looks at areas that haven't been really innovated on in more than a decade. And if you really look at food media, I would say that it's pretty much at that stage. It hasn't really been innovated on since the infatuation came in on the scene and started doing the numbered reviews plus the maps. And to me, that was like the last big innovation in food media. And obviously, like, taking it to social, of course, right? Like, that's a big innovation. But we're close to 10 years since that really took off. And I feel like there is a need for a new type of food content. And what I have seen so far from the other players in the space hasn't really been it. Like, all due respect to Eater, but like Eater LA's pivot to basically just doing these dining reports, which are like bite-sized little reviews of restaurants, I'm not sure it really plays.
No, I just anecdotally, I can feel myself using Eater less.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
And reading it less, just like as they're, I mean, I need to be like really intentional about going and finding it. Whereas in the past, it seemed like it would find me.
Yeah.
So to speak.
The thing that I'm a little like skeptical about, right, with these announcements, like, for example, the one that I'm most excited about, I'm very excited to have, Expense Account as a podcast to add to my rotation, but I'm probably most excited about this like new food media startup, right, coming out of Puck. I'm a little curious to see what they mean when they say it's a food media outlet for both consumers and insiders, because my theory is that food media for the last 10 years since 25 years, right? Like, Eater's big innovation was tapping into that insider mindset, right? And giving people like a peek behind the curtains, the inside scoop on like when things are opening, like way before they ever made it to like the New York Times, or way before they ever made it to the mainstream media publications, like in the old days, giving people really candid looks at like, here's what's good at a restaurant, here's what's not so good at a restaurant. I feel like food media has now gotten to a place where it's too insidery. Like, I actually think there's a lot more appetite for food content than there are people who are interested in like the insider news. Like, I feel like there's room for something like the infatuation is doing, but that isn't quite, stuck in the infatuation's pretty like limiting guardrails. I feel that they have for themselves. So I'm interested to see what they mean. I just hope that they don't lean too much on the insider aspect.
Yeah, I'd be surprised. Like, the Puck thing is like curious but TBD.
Yeah.
Given how Puck functions generally on the other spaces, it's like an insidery outlet, right? Like, they're like news for people who are into the business, who are political insiders, who like care about like behind the curtain. I'll be curious what they mean by for consumers. I'd be surprised if they do reviews. Like, I don't know what that will. I would see that almost more as like focused on like, oh, here's what this restaurant group is doing, and here's who got hired or fired, or new deals and partnerships with chefs, like that. Like, Feed Me. That's the kind of news I'm expecting there. Yeah, I guess so. But I mean, I need to read Feed Me more. I just subscribed today.
No way. It's embarrassing.
Yeah, I guess so. But I saw that.
Then again, I don't really read Puck, so Puck me.
I saw the Jay Lee podcast, and that's what drew me in, right? That's what it's supposed to do. I'm like, oh, I want to hear this guy. I agree and disagree with you about the food innovation piece. I think the way that some influencers have approached doing social with food, the way that Robert Martinez does it, like, and the way he interviews chefs, the way he highlights places, and the way he talks about them, there's like inspiration from like a Anthony Bourdain kind of thing, but it is really unique. And like I think people are innovating in the space of food, YouTube, food, social media in those ways. I'd be surprised if someone brings something new. Jay Lee interviewing non-food people about food, that is an interesting take. I think that's like an interesting. It's
not new though.
Is it not? Who else is doing that?
The Infatuation does this like every week. They publish
with celebrities.
Yeah,
all right, yeah.
Like,
but that's not the same thing as that's just like a recycled list of restaurants. Like, it's not the same thing as like talking about it and like being, I don't know. I see your point. It's fair enough. I don't know if we need something new.
Well, also like Chrissy and Dave Dine Out, right? Like they had non-food people talking about food pretty in depth. Like, we've seen this before.
Yeah, but we've seen like 6 episodes of it.
And frankly, I didn't need any more.
I wanted more. That's what I'm talking about. Like, I think we may not need to innovate more. It's just a matter of who are we putting the right talent in the right places and making it accessible enough to people so that they're willing to pay for it, or at least going to go read it and access it. I think that's like what we'll see how it works with Feed Me and the podcast there. It's also notable that the legacy outlets are taking this new tack of having their food critics be not anonymous. And they all make their good cases for why. Like in the pieces, they say, hey, I want to be able to engage. Like, the time of anonymity is kind of over with social media. I think a part of that is also they're hoping that people develop parasocial
100%. Yeah.
like relationships with these critics, right? Like, they want to know their faces.
And I'm interested to see how Elazar does, like, because he strikes me as someone who could be really good on social. Like, I think right now we don't have a lot of like the critics who are very comfortable in formats like social. So like, even if they were to take to social media, I'm just not sure, like, they're not natives on it, right? So I feel like it'll be interesting to see what we have when someone who's more native to it takes that approach. But I don't know, man. So here's a theory, okay? Now, one of Ben's big unlocks when he was founding Eater is that he wanted to talk about food more like people talked about sports. Like, these were people's athletes, basically, essentially speaking, right? I feel like we've moved away from that, and like food has become more of like it's become more for like the literary elite since then. Like, we don't really cover it like sports anymore. I think there is a way to cover food more like sports, the way that sports is covered today. I'm talking about like, yeah, obviously like the big players like The Ringer and stuff like that, but also Barstool Sports, love them or hate them, like that kind of thing, right? Talking about food more like that, but not just sports, because I think that a good analogy for sports is reality TV. Some of the best like content out there is about reality TV these days, and I feel like if you could find like a media model that talks about sports or that talks about food in the way that people talk about sports and people talk about reality TV, you could have something that really appeals to consumers. I don't exactly know what that looks like, but tonally, I'd be interested to explore that.
I see the reason. I think I understand what you're saying. One thing I'd say to you is, are we very happy with how sports are covered today?
I don't give a shit. Is it successful?
I also, I mean, the answer there is like kind of sort of. ESPN's in a downward spiral. Like Barstool might be doing the best out them. The Ringer does podcast, but it barely writes anymore. Or they still write, but they don't really highlight it. The issue, dude, is that with sports, anyone across the country can turn on their TV and experience the same thing.
Yeah, it's fair.
We're all watching the game, right? If I want to, like, people can talk about the Four Horsemen. Is that the New York restaurant that everyone's like? People can talk about the Four Horsemen all day long. I'm like probably top 0.01% interested in that audience, but I'm only going to engage so much until I go and see the Four Horsemen. It's fundamentally a more elitist audience because it's the people who can travel across the country and afford these meals and like want to go chasing after it. So like, I think there's like, you have to understand the audience to some extent, dude. Like, I think there's a reality that like it's not going to be covered by sports because the audience is fundamentally smaller and more specific.
Well, but you say that, but that's just because of I think it's just because that's the way that it's been covered before. Like, that's the way it's been covered in the past. But look at sports. Okay, to extend your analogy, right? There are tons of like very localized media outlets that talk about just one sports team in that city. You know what I mean? Like, there's an entire industry around just the Yankees or just the Giants, right? Which me as a Los Angelino, I don't give a fuck about. I'm never going to listen. But they're wildly successful there because people care about that. So I don't think that the like geography thing is such a big issue.
I see the point you're making. Shout out to the rights to Ricky Sanchez, the best Sixers podcast out there. But still, like, if we're talking about national level, which many of these are, right? These are trying to cover food at a national level. There's going to be limits on that and how it's talked about. And the people who are going to be interested in that are going to be a very specific type of person, I think.
That might be the problem. Like, a national approach might not be the approach. And that's actually what I want to talk to you about, because when we're talking about the developments that happened this week, LA is notably absent from the discussion. It's all very East Coast, right? Do you think there's a reason for that?
I mean, I think the byline or whatever, like the description for expense account says it will be speaking about food in LA and stuff as well. But just in terms of like where these things are housed, I don't know. New York is a media center, like a bigger media center than LA, I would argue in some ways, or at least when it comes to like news media.
Yeah.
Right. I think so. It kind of naturally things. I don't think LA is going to be left out of this. I think it will be covered, and I think like the feed me's of the world and so on and so forth are like going to find ways to go deeper in their biggest markets. LA being the second largest one. So I think they'll.
Yeah, but I don't want it to be like I Love LA. Are you watching the show on HBO?
I am. What do you think of that?
It's good. I actually like the show. Do you like it?
I do. I like it enough that I'm going to keep watching. I'm going to watch the whole thing for sure.
Yeah.
I also love LA, and I also really like that guy from English Teacher, Jordan.
JT Firstman.
JT Forsman. Yeah, he's awesome.
So I like it, but the thing that bothers me about it is that it's all New Yorkers who have basically come to Los Angeles to write a show about Los Angeles, right? Like look, I'm not against transplants, right? Transplants, it's one thing if you like live here and you just came from another place.
We are them.
I know, but we live here and we've lived here for like more than like decades in some cases, right? So like, I just don't want basically like the fate of LA food media to be in the hands of like New Yorkers who are going to dip in and out sometimes. That's all. Like I would love to see something native to LA that, you know, is also innovative, and I feel like that's missing from the conversation.
That is also innovative, I guess, being the thing there. Okay,
yeah.
The people you talk to LA chefs every week on this podcast, right? Or most weeks.
Yeah.
I talk to other folks too, but like this is trying to do that. Air Jordan's doing that to an extent. Like they're also talking. LA Times is here, right? Like Brant Cox has been here forever. Bill Esparza is here, right? Like there's a community here now. I guess the point you're making, like most of this is not innovation, dude. Like most of the news is WAPO has a new food critic. New York Times hired a new food critic.
Yeah.
Feed Me's been around for a bit, and they're like a food substack that's taking like talent from like consolidating talent. And if there's talent, like you could see like I mean, Emily Wilson's too big for I think something like Feed Me, right? She doesn't need them, but like someone like an up and coming Emily Wilson of The Angel could like fit into that world, right? So yeah, I don't know. I don't think LA will be left behind here. I'm not too worried about that.
Yeah, no. If we have anything to say about it, LA will not be left behind. Now, look, what does this mean for us? Do we lean in and try to capitalize on the momentum, or should we quit?
How do we lean into the momentum? What do you mean by that?
I just mean like with so much food content, are we going to be drowned out?
No, we won't because we're specific, right? That's the challenge for these guys, right? Well, specifically Feed Me and specifically Puck, right? For them, it'll be what is the audience you're cultivating? What is that you're providing? I think Jay Lee as a voice and the other folks that Feed Me will kind of cultivate will be really. I think those people have really strong voices and really interesting voices that people will want to hear.
Yeah. And
Puck, if it does end up being the insider news game, like in a way that I don't think food has really at all. Like Eater would have been the closest thing, but like covering it like it's big business or Hollywood, right? Puck covers Hollywood, and it's like, oh, there's intrigue and palace intrigue around Hollywood.
Yeah.
If the food industry got that treatment, I think it could be interesting.
It could be. I just think it's a small audience. It's a small audience, and like, and I think that an industry that's $1 trillion moving towards $1.5 trillion has room for something bigger. Anyways, I don't mean to be the Debbie Downer when this is actually all very good news. I just, I kind of am just excited about it and love talking about it. That's all.
You're just asking questions, baby. You're just asking questions.
Yeah, we're just asking questions. We're just throwing things out there, seeing what sticks. All right, I'm so excited for a conversation with Ben Leventhal, but are you down for a rapid round of Chef's Kiss Big Miss?
Let's make it rapid. Let's do it.
The LA Times' Jen Harris reports on how Los Angeles is testing the limits of automation with Tiger Walk and RoboWalk, two new robot-powered Chinese fast casual spots slinging Kung Pao chicken and chow mein from mechanized woks. Jen's taste test found Tiger Walk's dishes, especially the orange peel chicken and Kung Pao, surprisingly solid, if a little shy on that signature wok char. RoboWalk, on the other hand, was a little less successful, serving up dishes that Jen described as quote-unquote mushy. Sol, robot walks, Chef's Kiss or Big Miss?
I'm not excited for it, but I think it's inevitable. It's kind of my take.
No,
like I'm not excited about this. Like I think it is inevitable. I think like stuff like this, if there, I mean, like she said at was it RoboWalk that the line was out the door of USC students, right? And that's what like this is like fast food / fast casual slop basically that you can serve cheap at like $2 and your college student will go buy. I hope. I don't think it's bigger than that necessarily, but I do think it's inevitable in those ways. Like robot kitchens serving college campuses, like it's gonna happen.
I don't like to take a lot of stands, but I can pretty comfortably take the stand that I don't think I will ever support a robot-powered restaurant.
Nah, dude, nah, not doing that. Not doing that.
Not about it. All right, we're giving this a big miss. An inevitable, but big miss. The Infatuation dropped its annual list of the best new restaurants in LA. The list consists of 10 new restaurants that Infatuation staff allegedly cannot stop talking about. The restaurants include Somni, Baby Bistro, Celine, Sushi Masuyoshi, Restaurant Key, River, Mustard's Bagels, Rasaruma, Beethoven Market, and something called Wagyu Butcher. Saul, I'm not going to ask you to comment on the individual list because I know that you've only been to about 30% of it, but in general, is our obsession as a society with the shiny new restaurants a chef's kiss or a big miss?
I'm fine with it as a chef's kiss. Like it's exciting when new restaurants and new concepts open. It's okay to be excited by that, right? I do think it tells us about the health, quote unquote health of like a food market, right? When exciting new restaurants are opening, I think it's natural to want to celebrate the places that are like that have defined the year in new eating in LA. So that's cool. I'm with it. I'm with it too. I just know that some people are like, we have to support the old spots too. But we do also, right? We got to go out and eat. But it's important. Like I do think just like recognizing the best of the new is a good thing.
Yeah, fair. Any restaurants unlucky to miss out, or any of these that you're dying to try?
Somni dying to try. That's going to be an expensive bet one day.
Oh hell yeah!
When we do Somni,
especially now that I've started winning bets again.
I knew my Sixers were going to lose. By the way, they're playing again on Friday. Did you know that? NBA Cup, Sixers Pistons.
We do another one?
Double or nothing? Double or nothing?
Double or nothing. Okay.
Wait,
what does that even mean?
That doesn't work. So I owe Luka dinner at Linden now because his Pistons barely squeaked by with a win against the Sixers. But I knew it's the fucking Sixers. They're going to lose for me. That's like what they do. That's what they do.
Yeah.
And they're definitely going to lose against the Pistons Friday, so I actually don't want to do another bet on them. But I will. I mean, you should come by and watch.
Did you see the Pistons squad? They're decimated.
Who's hurt? Isaiah Stewart.
Tobias Harris has been out. Obviously Jaden Ivey is out, but there's other people out too. They were like they were calling out guys up from the G League.
If Cade Cunningham and Jalen Duren are playing, they're scary. Then they're a problem.
They are playing. Although Cade had an injury scare at the end of the Wizards game. Anyways,
to be further discussed. Restaurant Key, bro. We got to go.
Restaurant Key is number one for me on this list. I actually met Chef Key at the LA Chef Conference, and just like he had that look in his eyes, like this dude's a killer. You know what I mean? Like I want to try this guy's food. Like he has that vibe about him. So
that's high priority.
Yeah,
high priority.
Yeah. All right. Infatuation also dropped the trends to look out for in 2026 list, but I refuse to talk trends until December, and that's final. Okay. Late breaking news: Masa Inn at Little Washington and Alinea were demoted from 3 to 2 Michelin stars today. Saul, having recently been to Alinea's experience here in the Mayborn, what do you think? Chef's kiss, big miss?
Yeah, that seems right. I mean, again, Michelin seeming like a lagging indicator to me on this one.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, how many? Puyol is 2-star already, right? It'd probably be heading down to 1. I would argue. Yeah, I mean, just let's be real. So yeah, I have no issue.
I love it when you're real, baby. It's interesting. I do hope that this like lights a fire under Grant Achatz though. Like I would love to see him have and I took that personally moment, you know.
Delve even deeper into his new ChatGPT sous chefs. Yeah. he starts berating ChatGPT.
That'd be really funny. All right, next one. This is kind of an interesting one to me. The Franchise Times' Alyssa Huglin writes that generative AI isn't just making memes anymore, it's rewriting the restaurant marketing playbook. At this year's Restaurant Finance and Development Conference, BCG leaders argued that AI is helping brands do more with less, slashing campaign development time by 40% and enabling hyper-personalized data-driven storytelling. The example given in the piece is that of Asian fast casual concept Teriyaki Madness, which partnered with AI studio Genre.ai to launch a fully AI-generated ad campaign from the actors and environments to the voiceovers and visual effects. Saul, AI as an aid for restaurant marketing, chef's kiss or big miss?
I don't want to watch AI slop ads. I don't think anyone does. I will say, so I understand the use of it as like an ideation phase, and they mentioned it's like from the whole pipeline. Like I guess, and if you want to use it for ideation and all that stuff, like, but I would imagine that hiring actors and actually making something, expensive though it may be, like, unless your restaurant is slop, and that's the point, right? I can see like Chipotle or like Taco Bell doing stuff like this because like it's slop, so like you're selling slop, nothing wrong with, I guess then it adds up, but I hope they don't. Like I don't know, it seems unfair to say, right? We talk so much about like how like narrow restaurant margins are, and like you want to find all the solutions they can, and then AI comes along and allows you to save 40% on marketing, like whatever, you can do it. But I would just say strategically, AI slop, I just don't think will hit like the same way as a better ad. By the way, what restaurants sell ads aside from fast casual and fast food? Like,
well, I think
who does ads? Sorry.
So, I mean, I like this because I think it could actually give more restaurants the chances to do ads, and they don't have to be like ads on TV. Like they could be ads on social, right? Like I think like the thing is like a lot of restaurants don't have social media people. They don't have marketing people. So if you're able to tap into AI in a way that is authentic and actually good, then I could see a case here. Like for example, let's just say there's an AI software that is able to take a picture that you take of your dish as a chef and turn it into a video or something, and video performs better on social media. Like I could see that being a good usage of it, you know?
Why not just take a video of the dish?
But what if like your video is shitty and AI can make it better, you know?
I don't know. I understand this is probably like I'm Luddism. I'm being a Luddite here a little bit, but I don't know. I feel skeptical.
Fair. I think you just don't want to be controlled by robots, and I respect that. To be clear, I respect that.
And you, as opposed to you, who would like that, you would love that, dude.
Have your way with me, robot.
The structure,
literally.
The structure,
dude, optimize it all for me.
Oh
optimize it all for me. I will do anything you tell me to do, robot daddy. Okay, next one. Finally, a funny one. The New York Post reports that there's big trouble brewing in Little Italy as fears surge over pasta price hikes and even shortages as a punishing 107% tariff on Italian goods prepares to go into effect. Saw tariffs on your tagliatelle. Chef's kiss or big miss.
Why is this funny? What's funny?
Well, it's just kind of like I just picture all these like old Italian men.
Is it? I'll be honest, dude. Is it just because? Yeah, it's because it's Italians. Yeah. It's kind of racist, bro.
I can't be racist against Italians. Okay, I know. But I just think it's just funny because there's so much like.
I was reading this. I was like, wow, people are gonna like lose business and jobs. And Luke was like, this is a funny one.
Well, no.
Tariffs on your tagliatelle.
There's waste. Actually, I think there's plenty of like American producers of pasta. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is actually not a problem. This is just like the New York.
Wow.
This is the New York Post just trying to drum up like drama is what this is.
Oh, I see. Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
My pasta is too expensive.
All right. Now that was racist. That was racist.
That's bad.
All right. Yeah, you won the game just barely. You scraped through this time. All right, we're not going to do shitty up review. We're going to end instead with a leftover mailbag question from our 150th episode. The leftover question comes from Morpher Sandreese on Instagram, and the question is this: you cover awards in the pod. You know a lot too. Why, thank you. Have you thought of doing an LA Food Pod Award?
Or just an LA Food Award.
Yeah.
I've told you to do this. Was when you do each year, when you do your countdown of 100 burgers, tacos, pizza spots, sandwiches, noodles, I've told you should award the top 10 spots by ranking, which I know you didn't do for noodles. You should award them like, hey, certificate of approval. That's just like cool for the business, cool for you, right? Cool for the account and the podcast. We should absolutely do this, right? Like
you. So this to you means going to the restaurants and giving them a certificate.
You did this for Holbosch. We should.
As a joke.
Literally did, as a joke, you did it for Holbosch. But I was like, you should actually do it. You had to give them a little plaque. They were number 3 or something on your best tacos.
Yeah.
Like,
and Chef Hilberto was like giving me shit for making him only the number 3 best tacos. So I literally brought him a plaque that said, "You're the 3rd best taco."
And did he put it up? Right next to Michelin,
he did, baby. While we were there. While we were at dinner, he put it next to the Michelin plaque. I guarantee it's down now. But for that night, it was glorious. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the question is more geared towards like, could we come up with our own, marker that sort of like lays something down meaningfully? Like, for example, there's different awards to be given. Like for example, there's best chefs and best restaurants, which is always well like done by everybody. You know, Bon Appetit has like really carved a lane for themselves with best new restaurants and stuff like that, right? So I feel like we just have to find the right lane. To me, you know, this is not it, but it could be like the best like community member restaurant in the city or something like that. It's not that. It's not that. Okay, but I'm just saying it's got to be like a niche, you know.
Well, dude, think about it. This podcast originated because you and I wanted to talk about just like the joy of going out to eat together and like the good times we have and like to celebrate that, right? And like what it's like for friends to go out and eat and talk about it, right?
Yeah. And because we're straight men who just like are owed a podcast, are owed a podcast. Yeah.
Yeah. That's right. Stole my joke, but totally fine. But still, like that. But that's the ethos, right? Like that was the intent when you asked me to do this. It was like, hey, it's just because like we like going out to eat, we enjoy it. Like it's a really important part of our life that we appreciate. So let's talk about it.
Yeah.
So in that vein, it should just be like restaurants where we had the best times, or restaurants that we're most excited to go back to, right? Which I think is like the number one most important criteria for us, right? Like we can't speak to best chef, we can't speak to best community member, but we can speak to the places where we had the best times for whatever reason, right?
Dude, maybe the list is the revisitables.
Oh, okay. Yeah, just because it has to be plagiarized from fucking The Ringer, but yeah.
How is that? Did they do that? Rewatchables. Yeah.
You're right. You didn't think of that?
No, it was in my subconscious. To be fair, I don't watch the rewatchables, or listen.
Yeah, like, but it's something along those lines where it's like, hey, this brought us the most joy, or we had the best time, and we can't wait to come back. Yeah, like these are the places that we highlight that. And we just do it on the podcast. You don't need like certificates or whatever unless people want them. But
all right, we're gonna think about it. We'll think about it. If you have any ideas, dear listener, please pass them along. And by the way, we love doing the mailbag and answering your questions. So if you do have any questions, please send them to me at the LA Countdown. You can DM them to me. You can even leave a comment if you're listening to this on Spotify. We'll try to get to it next week. So, you know, for once, you did a pretty good job today. So good job. We'll be back right after the break with Ben Leventhal. Dear listener, I made a deal with my wife. She let me start a food podcast and eat ungodly amounts of noodles, pizza, sandwiches, and more under 2 conditions. One is that I never utter her name. The other is that I find ways to be healthy outside of my work in food. Being the fantastic partner I am, I found a few ways to up my health game. I exercise almost every day. I try to sneak in salads for lunch whenever I can, and I only ever snack on healthy foods. The macadamia nut has become an essential part of my daily routine with the best omega-6 to 3 ratios in the nut game, 8 times better than pistachios and 20 times better than cashews. At houseofmacadamias.com, they've got a bunch of different macadamia products that you can enjoy, like savory and sweet snack packs and chocolate-covered snack bars. One of the problems with macadamias I've found is that they can be expensive, but I'm solving this for you, dear listener, because as of today, all you've got to do is head to houseofmacadamias.com and use code LAFOOD to get a 10% discount on a healthy snack that also happens to be delicious. So what are you waiting for? Head to www.houseofmacadamias.com/discount/LAFood and go nuts. We're here today with Ben Leventhal, founder. You know him as the founder of Resy, the founder of Eater. We're talking today primarily with respect to your role as the founder of a new exciting company, Blackbird. But because this is primarily an audio medium, would you mind telling our audience at home where we are recording today?
We are recording, coming to you live from Rustic Canyon. I would say Rustic Canyon is top 10 most important restaurants in the history of Los Angeles dining. Wow. Which maybe is a spicy statement to start off with, but I think if you look at the history of dining in LA over the last 20, 25 years, there is a couple of restaurants which really helped LA figure itself out from an identity standpoint, from the standpoint of what LA food really is all about. Yeah. And I think this is one of those restaurants.
I don't think you're wrong about that, and I don't think it's even that controversial of a statement. I haven't actually been here, I'm ashamed to say, in like 6 or 7 years, and it's just LA. it happens that way, you know? But I love this restaurant.
It's a great restaurant. If I'm not mistaken, I think they're celebrating 20 years next year.
Makes sense.
I think it's the end of 26 is 20 years. My one beef with this restaurant, which is probably a pretty common one, is there's no burger.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. And the chef has been pretty clear and vocal as to why that's the case. Apparently, we ruined it. As consumers, we ruined it for ourselves by ordering too many burgers here back in the day. But that's my one beef with this restaurant, because I do think sometimes you want to be able to just go and sit at the bar and have a burger.
Have you had their burger at Birdie G's?
I haven't.
Well, let me tell you, you're in for a treat when you go and try that thing. And actually, it's funny you bring up burgers, because my icebreaker question for you today is actually about burgers, because Blackbird famously launched something called the Burger League of New York.
Yes,
now,
sir.
You might not know this, but I'm actually on a quest this year to eat 100 LA burgers in 365 days.
Wow.
I'm 85 in as of this recording. I gotta ask you, as a burger connoisseur and aficionado, what's your favorite burger in Los Angeles?
Oh, I mean, you're obviously like well above my pay grade on this topic.
I don't know about that.
I just had the burger at Pastroli. Mm-hmm. That's a great burger.
It's damn good.
Damn good.
That's on my top 10.
And I got to tell you something. Like, some burgers come at you and it's pretty straightforward. You know, like you have your smash burgers, obviously, and you have your sort of classic, what I would say is sort of probably like an all-American bar burger, or probably a steakhouse burger. Mm-hmm. And then you have your sort of, there's this third category of burgers, which is the ones that have a lot more to them.
Yeah.
And they're generally sort of created by a chef, right? They have sort of a craftsmanship to them. They all good burgers have a craftsmanship to them, but these burgers have different moving parts. And they can either be a disaster, and you're off in a land of just total circus of a circus in the form of a hamburger, or they're perfect and they're sneaky, and there's things about them that you like can't quite figure out why you like it so much.
Yeah.
This is that kind of burger.
Well, I've heard you in the past talk about concept burgers versus execution burgers.
Yes.
I feel like Pajoli is kind of perfect because it straddles the line of both.
You're 100% right.
Right?
100% right.
Have
you had that one?
I have. I think it's in my top 10 right now.
Okay.
Like number 8 or 9.
Okay.
I think. But the thick onion, it's controversial.
So the thick onion is controversial, but if done right, is an essential part of a great burger.
Yeah.
The last one that I had, top of mind for me, is the Peter Luger burger, which is a New York burger, with apologies to our listeners who are, assume, mostly on the in La La Land.
We'll edit this out.
That burger has about a 1/4 inch thick onion in it.
Yeah.
But it stands up, one, because obviously they soak it overnight.
Yeah.
Got to soak it overnight. And two, because they are using in that burger, the burger is both chuck and ground porterhouse, dry-aged porterhouse. So there's so much body to the burger itself, to the meat, that it can stand up to the onion.
Wow, class. And how thick is the burger?
It's a monster. It's 10 ounces.
Oh, wow. So the 1/4 inch onion is actually nothing compared to the thickness of the burger.
It's to scale.
Good. That's what's important. Well, hey, I could talk to you about burgers all day, but we should probably get into Blackbird, okay? So you're synonymous with Resy and eaters, but as I said, I want to understand more about Blackbird because it just kicked off in LA a couple of weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken. For our listeners who are coming to this for the first time potentially, can you explain what we're talking about? We're talking about Blackbird?
So Blackbird is a loyalty and payments app. And the idea is that all of these restaurants really haven't been able to think about loyalty in a long time. But consumers want to know, the more you dine somewhere, the better your benefits, the more access you get, and you should be able to accrue points along the way. So with Blackbird, we like to say, you come for the points, you stay for the vibes. Every time you dine, you earn points. You can spend those points at any of our participating restaurants at any time. It's like cash money. And the more you use the app, the better your benefits get.
So I've heard it also described or compared to airline miles.
It's just like that for restaurants.
Yeah, I think that really helped me get it. Because when I heard loyalty, my mind went to Subway stamps. I remember I used to work at this pie shop in the Arts District, and our managers were like, you gotta use this online loyalty app. I forget what it was called. I forgot to look it up before I was here. Had some horrible name, of course. and nobody ever used it. So when I heard loyalty app, I was thinking those things. But for people who are thinking that, how is this different?
Well, I think it starts with just incredible restaurants.
Yeah.
So a lot of loyalty apps are either single unit or they're part of these like networks that feel kind of generic. So the starting point is these are the best restaurants in the city. These are the restaurants that people love, that define the city, that are literally the best ones. And it spans from places you get your coffee to places you'll have a long extended meal. So first of all, we're curating restaurants that set us apart, and that mean that no matter where on the Blackbird network you go, you're going to have an incredible experience. The other thing we're doing is we're partnering directly with restaurants to say, look, what does loyalty look like for you? How do you think about a customer becoming a regular? How do you think about when somebody shows up from out of town? What's the kind of hospitality that you want to deliver? And we're putting those kinds of things into the app. That's the kind of stuff that we're productizing. The platform is built right alongside the restaurant industry. It's a partnership with the restaurant industry. So we really feel like you're going to sense the DNA of the restaurants when you use the product. You know, our real sort of like rally cry is restaurant lovers unite. And that is about restaurant workers, that is about restaurant owners, that is about chefs, and that is about the restaurant dining public coming together on a platform that's for all of those groups. And I think you really feel it.
Yeah, so, you know, looking back at the through line of your endeavors, whether it's Resy, whether it's Eater, there seems to be a common theme of you really wanting to put restaurants first over other legacy institutions. In the case of Eater, it was obviously legacy media. In the case of Resy, it was reservation platforms that were oftentimes fucking over restaurants. How does Blackbird actually follow that trend? Because on its face, you might not be able to tell how restaurants are benefiting from this.
Look, it's the thing about my career, to be honest with you, that I'm most proud of. I think I have had the successes that I've had because the things that I have worked on have been real partnerships with restaurants.
Yeah.
Whether those are economic partnerships or partnerships about ownership or just partnerships about approach, right? It's been so important to me. So Blackbird is a partnership in a couple of ways. First of all, as I mentioned, we are very much in consultation with the restaurants that we're working with all of the time. A humongous amount of the platform is for restaurants to customize and to develop. But beyond that, as we talk about the payments network that we're building, the network itself is going to be co-owned by the restaurant industry. So the least talked about part of our business is that we have our own payments network that we're building called Flynet, named after our points. And Flynet is a blockchain, and that blockchain is co-owned by the restaurant industry. So the more Blackbird grows, the more transaction volume there is on Flynet, the more the restaurant industry overall benefits. I don't want to take credit for inventing the wheel. This is basically what VisaNet was when it was created. This is Visa, but instead of it being a bunch of banks, what we want to do is give a bunch of restaurants ownership of this platform. Really, all of the restaurants of the world ownership. So it will develop over time, but we're going to wake up in 5 years and we're going to look at Blackbird and we're going to look at Flynet and we're going to see something that is co-owned by the restaurant industry, and it's going to be one of one.
When you say co-owned by the restaurant industry, what does that actually mean?
It's very simple. They're going to participate and have as much economic interest in it as we do.
So one of the things that I know is a huge stumbling block for restaurants, a very small margin business, are those credit card fees, which can go to 2%, 3%.
2% if you're very lucky, 3% if you've negotiated a good deal. Yeah, they can get a lot higher even.
And this is a fix for that, they would say.
This is absolutely a fix for that. So if you take a step back, one of the things I think that restaurants are facing right now, which at the risk of being slightly histrionic is an existential threat, is that the industry has gotten humongous without individual restaurants growing that much, right? The restaurant industry is $1 trillion plus in the U.S. alone, right? The average independent restaurant's a couple $1 million a year. So the industry has become massive. The individual restaurant has pretty much stayed the same size for a long time. And so the restaurants have lost the leverage that they need to create more advantageous pricing when it comes to POS, when it comes to admittedly reservations, when it comes to third-party delivery, when it comes to analytics, when it comes to any of the systems. We could look around this room and we could just quickly rattle off 10 or 15 companies that are taking a little piece of their revenue here, and the restaurant is taking a smaller and smaller and smaller piece. So look, I am a strong believer, one way or another, like restaurants will see the light. There will be restaurants for the rest of time. They're too special for them to go away. But we need to figure out how restaurants can get a little bit more control of their economics and can get a little bit of that leverage back. And hopefully Blackbird's a big part of that.
Yeah, no, that's leverage is a key word there, because I think, so many restaurants we hear time and time again are so almost like beholden to the whims of these like third-party delivery apps or things like that, right?
I mean, these apps, look, I think that there's good things to be said about some of them. And this is not about me calling out a bunch of big tech companies, but there is something fundamentally broken about the relationship between restaurants and tech companies when the restaurants, like I said, the restaurant's profitability is not improving. You would think as the industry gets bigger, the margins get better. That is just, you'd think, looking at it broadly at an economic landscape, it's just not the case here. So we got to crack the code and figure out why that's happening and do better.
Well, let me ask you, why is that happening in your mind?
Like I said, the leverage is with the big companies. The leverage is with the Toasts of the world and the DoorDashes of the world and the Amex Resys of the world. That's where the leverage is.
So if I'm a consumer who wants to come at this, wants to use Blackbird for the first time, obviously Los Angeles, we haven't had it up until now. Can you walk me, confession, I downloaded the app for the first time today in preparation for this interview. I found it pretty intuitive, but maybe not all of our listeners would. Can you walk me through the process from the moment you download the app to the moment I check out at the restaurant, how I'm using it, what I'm using it for?
So the best way to download and use Blackbird is you start by showing up at one of our restaurants. So Rustic Canyon is a great example. There's many, many others. Giada, Justa, Felix, where I'm excited to be going tonight. Many, many others as well. And you download the app, you check in. So you download, you set up an account as you do with any other app. You're going to check in. And essentially, you're going to basically let the restaurant know that you're here. By checking in, we pop up your name and your information on a screen that sits with the restaurant. And then from there, you've set up your account so you know how you're paying. When you tell your server you're using Blackbird, from there you get up and leave when you're done, and that's that.
And
super simple.
You're using your Fly.
You are using your Fly, and we'll ask you for a credit card because you've got to load Fly to have Fly. Like, you'll earn it as you go, but you're not going to have a Rustic Canyon's dinner's worth of Fly when you sign up for the app.
Right.
We're generous with our rewards. We're not insane. Right. So you'll have to have a credit card to load some Fly or to pay for your first meal, and we'll use that card and your Fly to pay as you go.
That makes sense. And the nice thing about this is the loyalty isn't limited to one restaurant. It's transferable across restaurants.
Yeah, I think that's a key point. I mean, I think that it's about a network of utility. It's not about one restaurant.
So you say, we're curating restaurants too. Does that mean that there are going to be restaurants you don't allow on the platform?
Well, I have to tell you, I have a very specific sort of idea of what a good restaurant is. And basically, I do think every restaurant has a good restaurant in it. Like, I strongly believe in, I don't think people open restaurants to have bad restaurants. You open a restaurant because you want a good restaurant. So are they all amazing? No, they are not all amazing. Do we do some kind of curation? Do we say, these are the kinds of places that we want on the app? Of course. And as we think about discovery and we think about how you interact with it, we want to surface great restaurants, but in the long run, we want to be in a huge number of restaurants.
So listening to your interviews about founding Resy, it seems like there were some awesome unlocks, right? Like, for example, with embedding the widget directly onto restaurant pages in order to cut out the need to have two tabs open at one time. What were some unlocks you had with Blackbird in order to basically get it to work?
Well, some of them are still secret. I mean, we are still growing the company, so we're not taking any victory laps yet. We got a long way to go. But one thing I would say is that I think something that sets Blackbird apart a little bit is that we are just as interested in engaging with and providing value to restaurant workers as we are with any other constituency in our ecosystem. We really strongly believe that people that are working in restaurants, your servers, your hosts, your maitre d's, your baristas, your bartenders, those are the people that are creating the hospitality magic around you. And I think that a mistake a lot of companies make, a lot of technology companies make, is that they're not nearly engaged with that part of their essentially like user base as they should be.
Yeah.
And so we've spent a lot of time thinking about how do we create value for that group, how do we keep that group engaged, how do we do things to signal how important we think that they are. And so I think that's been an important unlock for us.
That's interesting. It's almost like getting your evangelists and ambassadors to be the people who are working in the restaurants, so you're not in the position necessarily having to convince them to.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you think about the restaurant, it's like it's three different groups. It's customers,
yeah,
it's owners and chefs, and then it's the workers. And it's a mistake to think about owners, chefs, and restaurant workers in the same bucket. Mm-hmm. They don't think about each other in the same bucket. Mm-hmm. And so we got to calibrate this business, and we got to calibrate the platform for all three, not just two.
That's important. I feel like that's often overlooked. I mean, it's overlooked in our own like podcast coverage, you know, like we rarely distinguish between the two. So
right.
Now I'll never be able to see anything other as distinct. So thanks for that, Ben. Listen, I want to zoom out a little bit and talk about your career in restaurants a little more generally. Look, as the through line has been restaurants with every one of your endeavor, where does that, maniacal focus on restaurants come from?
I really don't know. I love restaurants. We are sitting, like, this is a happy place for me. I love sitting in restaurants. I love just how this room feels, and like the way it shifts your mindset, and you're like, it's just, I'm always in the right place when I'm in a great restaurant. It's always been the case for me. So how that turned into a career, I really don't know. It's a very lucky thing that's happened. I would say that I've always believed strongly that restaurants are really entertainment businesses in the end. Like restaurants and chefs are storytellers, and I think that's been something that's been a little bit different in terms of how I've approached some of these things. When we started Eater, we really, it was like play-by-play.
Yeah, sports.
It was sports play-by-play. And when we started Resy, the way we thought about packaging up tables and the way we thought about giving, the early thing about Resy was we gave restaurants tools to merchandise tables, to deal with like last minute, tables. Notify was something we invented, which now the industry has widely adopted, but that was something that we developed pretty early. And it was really about how restaurants were not just the places people sit and buy spaghetti. Like, they're places people sit and buy an experience.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to say that in any particularly precious way. I mean, some experiences are just a great plate of pasta, but some are, 4 hours and a chef doing a real tap dance. But that's the point. Like, I think that's something that has stayed with me, is just that, like, when you think about restaurants that way, I think the possibilities around them change a little bit.
Were you surprised, especially when you launched Eater, by how many people seem to think about restaurants the same way you did?
It was rewarding for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, the wonderful thing about blogging, especially in those days, and I suppose about any kind of content creation still, is the feedback loop is really quick.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you feel it all the time.
So you should look at my comment section, brother.
Within minutes, when something's clicked.
Yeah.
And so it was really fun in the early days. We were so close to our readers, and there was so much real-time direct feedback. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
It's like the Wild West out there.
Yeah.
For better or for worse, of course. You've already mentioned the stat, but restaurants are a $1 trillion industry, and I
think it's actually going to be more than, I think in 20, it's going to wind up being closer to 1.5.
Wow.
It's huge.
And so that's huge growth in a very short period of time, right?
Yeah, maybe 26 will be 1.5, but I mean, it's $1 trillion going on $1.5 trillion.
But still, individual restaurants are lagging, right?
Yeah, small.
In LA, I'm sure you're aware of this, but we've experienced dozens and dozens and dozens of closures over the last year, and the reasons we've heard time and time again are rising food costs, rising labor costs, horrible landlords, bad bureaucracy at the government level, and then of course you have this perfect shitstorm of fires and ice raids and other external factors. There's not a lot of hope out here, is what I'm trying to say. At least when you talk to a lot of people. What do you think the path for an operator to succeed in LA is in 2025?
Look, first of all, I am not a LA native. LA, and I'm not local to LA.
Yeah,
so
we're gonna edit that out too. Otherwise people tune out.
But so I don't pretend to have an expert view on what's happening on the ground. But obviously, I talk to restaurateurs, I talk to chefs, I talk to consumers, I talk to informed industry people like yourself, and everyone's saying the same thing. The industry in LA is hurting right now.
Yeah.
I think that in terms of long term, I think there's a couple things to keep in mind. First of all, I think we have to understand there is sort of a baseline pain that comes with running a small restaurant in any time.
Yeah.
In the entirety of my career, there's not a single moment that I can remember where I talked to small restaurateurs who are saying, "Oh, it's awesome." The idea of running a small restaurant is sort of like the idea of being okay with a certain amount of pain.
Yeah.
But you're willing to do it because the storytelling matters to you and the project matters and connecting with customers matters. So I think one thing is just like there's just some of that is always going to persist. It's just a really hard business. Mm-hmm. Restaurants, by as compared to other small businesses that generate $1 million, $2 million a year, there's more moving parts.
Yeah.
It's more complicated. So first of all, let's just agree, like restaurants are fundamentally hard businesses. But I think at this moment, I think what gives me a lot of hope is, one is I think there's as much creativity in the industry as we've ever seen. I think the restaurants that are coming out of LA, the creativity that's coming out of LA, form factors, cuisines, the kinds of people that are contributing to the LA restaurant narrative, amazing. I think the other thing that's happening, which is really important, is that we are seeing new sources of capital for restaurants, and I think this is not an LA specific trend, but it's happening in LA, and I think it's reason to be very optimistic. Real estate developers are the most obvious example. The amount of capital that real estate developers are putting into the restaurant industry to open concepts, to develop new things is huge.
Yeah.
It's a source of capital that did not exist at the scale that it is today. It did not exist 10 years ago. So there's more optionality. If you can get your small restaurant to cruising altitude, you've got more options than you've ever had.
That's fair. Yeah. No, because I was going to be the Debbie Downer in the situation and say, you mentioned real estate pumping money into restaurants, but oftentimes doesn't that just kind of like hollow out the middle class of restaurants and kind of lift up people who are already successful because that capital doesn't want to take as many risks?
I think the reason I think that's the wrong take, respectfully,
Fair. No, I'm told that all the time.
Is that I think that the savvy developers are moving on from the big guys. And they're looking for really good, authentic local restaurants to invest in because they see how those restaurants can connect with customers.
Yeah.
And that's what they want. That's the amenity they want for their projects.
Yeah.
If you're trying to create a neighborhood from scratch, which bold developers do, you don't want a bunch of big box brands. You want somebody who's shown that they can connect with locals.
Yeah.
And so I think the money is actually, again, you've got to get the plane to cruising altitude.
Right.
You're not going to get any money for your next project if you can't be commercially viable on the first.
Yeah.
But if you can, then the doors start to open for you. And I really do think that developers and all the other kinds of companies that are investing in restaurants, because it includes, by the way, large-scale CPG, large-scale consumer products, automobile, finance, fashion. There's lots of companies that are putting money into restaurants, wanting to be associated with the brands, wanting to get access for their audiences to these brands. They're looking at the indies because that's where they get the most bang for their buck.
Yeah.
Authenticity and creativity.
Yeah, no, you have a point. Even with the hyper localized DoorDash ads that you see around town, they're always pumping up hyper local, authentic restaurants.
There you go.
Because it makes them sound cool, probably.
It makes them sound cool.
Yeah. That makes sense. In the past, you've talked about how you feel like the zeitgeist is moving away from individual chefs to restaurant brands. Do you see that happening in Los Angeles as well?
Yeah, I think we're out of the chef age, and we're into the restaurant age. That's where we are. We're about concepts. We're about, and I don't mean concepts in a pejorative way. I mean concepts in a great way. We're about a 360-degree concept. You walk in and you do know the chef, but you also see what the restaurant is trying to do. You see the atmosphere, you see the brand, maybe you see the merch, you see the other things they're doing. That's the age we're in. You've got to have a fully articulated restaurant for it to pop.
So like having that signature chef name on the restaurant isn't necessarily a guarantee of success if all that other stuff is missing.
I mean, look, it works if it works. I mean, like, Funky is amazing. Now, he's obviously super talented, so it makes a lot of sense to put his name on the side, and putting his name on the side is why that restaurant matters a ton. But there's as many examples now where the chef's name is not on the side, and whether the chef is an A++ all-star or a local person just cutting his teeth, like, you're just not seeing as many chef-driven, chef-centric, chef ride or die restaurants.
No, I hadn't thought about it, and then I was like, no, he's wrong. And then I started thinking about what are the hot restaurants in LA right now. And honestly, if I didn't do what I do, I don't think I'd be able to name the chef. I just know because I've studied it, right? Now, switching gears a little bit to another one of your previous darlings, and that is food media. Talk about another industry that's come upon extremely hard times. Eater has had layoffs. Los Angeles Times food newsroom has had layoffs as well. It seems clear that old models especially funding models, aren't working as well as they once did. If they were ever working perfectly, we can probably, have that conversation too. But are there any food media models or any future food media models, whether they exist now or not, that give you hope?
I mean, certainly, the influencer ecosystem seems like it's raging. I mean, I don't know if that gives you hope, or maybe you're thinking that's a sign of the end. But great independent content creators seem to be doing very, very well right now. Not necessarily building huge businesses. I mean, you could see it's not in food, but what Barry Weiss has done, going from an independent content creator to leading the newsroom at a humongous news organization. There's clearly a path of some sort there, right? But look, content's never been an easy business, right? It's not like there's a universe of people that get rich doing content, right? Because it's very similar to restaurants. There's ways to break through. I think the ways to break through maybe have changed, right? We went from it being about advertisers to it being about paid, to it being about solo shops, and now it seems like we're back a little bit to some kind of combination of paid and some advertiser supported. I've always believed good storytellers shine through. Good storytellers find a way. Good content finds the light of day. But it's always going to be a pretty hard business. It feels like a lot of, especially today with the oversaturation of everything, it's the breaking through. And then I think translating that into a sustainable business, which keeps me up at night personally. Now, are there any influencers that you yourself actually get your recommendations from? Other than you? Oh, please. The truth is, I mean, my feed on Instagram and other places is filled with people. I mean, it's sort of the algorithm. I mean, if there's a scary version of this, it's that you don't even really necessarily know who they are. Yeah, right? That's true. You're often just sort of you're doom scrolling and oh, that burger looks good. And how did that get there? I know. I mean, the influencer is Instagram, I guess. Yeah, that's scary though. But there's no that is a little scary. Do you still read food news though? You must, right? It's your business. I mean, I read some of the trade stuff every day. I read Expedite, Kristen Hawley's newsletter. I read Hungry. I read some of the trade stuff to keep up to speed. In terms of my content reads, my daily content reads, Honestly, it's just it's whatever comes through the feed.
Yeah, whatever rises to the top.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what you gotta, like, I talk to a lot of chefs. I'm talking to people all the time.
Yeah.
Colin Kamek, who works for Blackbird, and we have a series called What Colin Eats.
On your great Substack.
On our Substack. That's what I read.
Yeah.
But I have the luxury of him sitting next to me, so I can just ask him.
Yeah, you can be like, what'd you eat recently, Colin?
Yeah, actually my real answer to this question is the Blackbird company Slack, because we talk about restaurants a lot.
You should start selling subscriptions to that. That would
whatever pops up in there is where I'm going. By the way, we are thinking, here's some alpha in the
we're breaking news right now?
I don't know if we're breaking news, but we are thinking a lot about the evolution of our content program, and I think it's fair to say that there will be a future where there's some premium publication for our club members.
That's cool. Yeah, I like that. Makes sense. Okay, last few questions for you. You know, as a founder, I imagine it must be difficult to see your previous babies go through some tough times, whether it's, as I mentioned, Dieter, but also Resy last year had an article that like Open Table was coming for its lunch or whatever the sensationalized headline was. But, when you see stuff like that, do you go into problem-solving protector mode, or do you just force yourself to be like, not my circus, not my monkeys?
So I definitely spend time thinking about how I would be doing things had I still owned, or was I still running one of these companies.
Yeah.
It's a fun intellectual exercise.
Yeah.
That said, I strongly believe, and I did learn this the hard way, you have to be emotionally detached once something you create has a new home. Mm-hmm. You have to be okay emotionally. The intellectual part's easier. The emotional part's really hard. You have to be okay saying, look, it's not mine anymore. Mm-hmm. So I'm very, very proud of having sold Resy to Amex, and I spent 1.5 years at Amex landing the plane there, and I'm extremely proud of how Resy is integrated into American Express and what Resy does as part of that business. I think there's lots of things that Resy has lots of challenges, like every other company does, and I think the team there is doing a pretty good job of figuring it all out. It's a really hard business right now. I mean, reservations has changed massively since the easy days of 2019 when we sold that business. But you've got to detach from it. I'm always going to be a fierce cheerleader. These things are always going to be very close to my heart. But you've got to detach, and you've got to say, we've turned the page.
Yeah. No, I think that's healthy.
And like I said, I learned that the hard way.
Yeah.
When we sold Eater, there were several years where I tortured myself, and I can admit this now, and I tortured everyone at the company with all of my feedback.
No, there's some fun interviews that you did back then, actually. Yeah.
And I just, hopefully I'm a little older, a little wiser, and I just know that's the wrong wrong approach.
Yeah. No, it sounds better for everybody, including yourself. You seem to always be thinking about what is the problem I can solve next, what hasn't been innovated in a while that I can innovate. Looking forward, doubt you're going to tell us your next big idea right here in case anybody steals it, but are there in general areas that you're looking at that you think are ripe for innovation within the restaurant space?
No, my next big idea is Blackbird. I mean, we're in the very early innings.
Yeah.
We want to build a humongous company, and we want to build a company that changes the restaurant industry. So it's early innings for us, and that is what's new. That is what I think is next.
It's a good answer. It's a great answer. And you use the innings metaphor, which to a Los Angeles crowd is going to play very well.
There you go. Congratulations on all your success, by the way.
Why, thank you. I was at
money well spent.
Home plate by myself. Last couple questions are about LA. You're a dyed-in-the-wool New Yorker, but I've heard you talk about how LA has really cemented itself as a tier 1 city.
Yeah.
What do you think has contributed to that?
Oh, well, I think LA's restaurant scene is truly local now. I mean, I think there was a long period of time where LA restaurants kind of felt like imports, or maybe even like imposters in some cases. But I think LA is now very clear as to what it is and what it wants to be, and what it means for there to be an LA restaurant. So I think the scene is as good as ever.
It's found its voice, you might say.
It absolutely has found its voice.
Well, last question for you that we ask all our guests. What are 3 LA restaurants you love eating at right now? Impossible question for you, I'm sure, but...
I love all of Blackbird's restaurants, the absolute most. But I'm going to give you like here's my unbiased, very genuine answer. So I've been coming to LA obviously my whole life to eat. The places that I always try very hard to go back to are Matsuhisa. When I'm on the west side, I really do love Capo. I know some people say it's fancy, but I really do love the setting there. And my guys at John and Vinny's. I mean, John and Vinny's now and forever. But those are the three that are top of mind right this second. Obviously, we're in Rustic Canyon. Rustic Canyon's amazing. I was recently asked, like what restaurant, if it closed, would you really, would you not be able to part with? The place that I go to all the time when I visit is Justa. I somehow on every trip I find myself at Justa, so that one matters a ton.
Those are great answers. There are no wrong answers. There are no wrong answers. Well, Ben, you've been so generous with your time. Congrats on all your success. But I'm not, knock on wood, because I'm not gonna, we'll see what happens.
Just getting started.
You're just getting started. Early innings. I wish you a long and successful baseball game. And I hope you have to back on the pod sometime.
Thank you. Anytime.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the LA Food Podcast. Thanks to our guests, Ben Leventhal and Father Saul, of course, for making the time for us. We'll be back next week with another epic episode. If you like what you heard today, please go to wherever you listen to podcasts, leave us a rating, review, subscribe. Seriously, all that stuff really helps us be part of the future of food media. So I really, really, really appreciate it. If you're looking for me before we come back for our next episode next week, you can find me on TikTok, Instagram, Threads, YouTube, even our website at the LA Countdown. You can also find us on Instagram at It's Acquired Taste or at acquiredtastemedia.com.